So now let's have a discussion on nuclear energy. Now, nuclear energy is basically, the whole concept of nuclear energy is basically dependent upon the binding energy. Binding energy. Now there is a graph in your NCERT book, that is figure 13.1. So please have a look at that figure. It gives a relation between the binding energy and the mass number. This figure gives the relation between the binding energy and the mass number A. So now the concept goes in such a way, say suppose if the greater the binding energy, the less is the total mass of a bound system. Now what we can understand, if the binding energy, if binding energy of a particular nucleus is great or say is large. Instead of great, let's put the word large over here. Is large. Then the mass is small. So now if we reverse the concept, if nuclei with less total binding energy transform to nuclei with greater binding energy, say suppose this is a nucleus, if the mass is very big, say suppose this mass is very big, so it has less binding energy. So somehow if I break this and forms a nucleus of small mass with high binding energy, then we can say that there is a net release of energy. Net release of energy. And depending upon this concept, we have two types of reaction. One is fission, nuclear fission, and another is nuclear fusion. So these two types of nuclear reaction or nuclear energy is basically dependent upon this concept. That is, greater the binding energy, less is the mass number. So if I'm converting a particular nucleus into great binding energy, that is, I'm breaking down its mass. So a high amount of energy will be released when we break this mass into a smaller quantity. So the excess energy that was present in this nucleus will be released, and this is the net release of energy. And by using this concept, we can understand what is nuclear fission and what is nuclear fusion. So let's have a look at nuclear fission in our next slide.